Hello everyone and welcome to the second of two sessions, looking at how we can build leaders for a better future. My name is Shawn Latham, my pronouns are he and him, and I'm a middle-aged white guy sitting in my office with a bluish green striped shirt on. I'm the Policy Coordinator and one of two co-directors of Self-Advocates in Leadership. Today's presentation is called Social Change for a Better Future. Last week, we looked at the disability rights movement from the start of it up into today by looking at the disability laws that have improved so many lives of people with disabilities. You also heard from self-advocates explaining their thoughts on the movements and what accomplishments stood out to them. Today we will be looking forward to ways people can help make changes through political action. We will be exploring different kinds of political actions and what things you need to think about when doing one. Today's agenda, like last week, will be in 3 parts. First, we will start with the presentation I'm doing now. After this, one of our SAIL members, Kyle Matheson, will then host a discussion about social change with a few of our key advocates. After this, we will open it up for questions. I'm going to try to move us along at a good pace so we can get you out of here at 5:30. Wanted to start this presentation by looking at things we are still dealing with today. I want to begin today's presentation looking at a few words. We learned last week about the disability rights movement and all the various legislation we advocated and fought for. Disability rights means we are working to establish legal and civil protections to prevent discrimination. However, not all discrimination comes from law, and we as human beings are just one thing. I'm a person with a disability, but I'm also white, I'm Scandinavian, I'm a sports fan, I'm a brother, a son, and an uncle, and I'm a Christian. Each of those identities affect my life, and all of them comes with issues. So this is one reason disability advocates, especially those from other marginalized groups, created a new disability definition called disability justice. Disability justice advocates for interdependence, community care, and a fundamental restructuring of society to ensure equity, rather than access within existing systems. It expands on the disability rights movements by recognizing the intersectionality of disability with other marginalized identities. Sometimes, we need to fight against stereotypes or prejudices that affect our different identities. We need to work to fight against systems of exclusion or exploitation. I also wanted to highlight the difference between equality, equity, and reality. Sometimes, having equal or the same access to something isn't always enough. Often, individuals need different resources or tools to ensure they have the same opportunities and can reach the same outcomes as others. In this great example, we see a picture of 3 comparison images watching a baseball game. In one image, all 3 people got the same equal steps to stand on in order to see the game over a fence, but having the same step doesn't always help individuals who are shorter, so in the next image, we have people given different sized steps in order to assist each one as an individual. Now this may also be seen as a more accessible section for individuals who need it. This would be an equitable accommodation. And then we have the third image, which is often the reality example. Certain people get accommodations or special perks, not based on their individual need, but often because of their status or finances. So how do we change things? When we see an issue, an injustice, discrimination, or prejudice, we see many individuals come together to make social change through political action. While change can happen when one individual advocates for themselves, often groups of people from marginalized populations need to step up, come together to plan how to make significant social change, and this is often done through various forms of political action. People might march in the streets for political changes, people might speak up at legislative hearings, or they might hold protests against an action they don't like. There are many types of political actions, and in a minute I will highlight a few. But here is a good list of them. 1. Protests, rallies and demonstrations. 2. Civil disobedience. 3. Strikes and labor actions. 4. Petitions and campaigns. 5. Boycotts. 6. Social media activism. 7. Lobbying and advocacy. Sit-ins and occupations. Nonviolent resistance. 10. Legal challenges and litigation. 11. Voting. And 12. Other forms. The first type 1 wanted to highlight are protest rallies and demonstrations. These are larger gatherings in public spaces to speak against negative governmental actions or for positive ones that will help people. These can be peaceful, use non-violent resistance, or involve civil disobedience. Examples of this is protesting things like not having an adequate public transportation system, where people may chain themselves up to get our government to enact legislation. It might be protesting legislators' unwillingness to pass the Americans with Disabilities Act by holding rallies and demonstrating how inaccessible the Capitol and other places were at the time by holding a Capitol crawl, where people who had mobility issues crawled up the steps to demonstrate the accessibility issues and the fact that the ADA needs to be passed. Another form of political action is a sit-in and occupations. This is a form of protest where people physically occupy a space, like a government building, business, or public area, to disrupt normal activities and draw attention to a political issue. People with disabilities, with the help of community members, including the Black Panthers, famously did this in 1977 when they took over a San Francisco federal office for over 3 weeks to help get the Rehabilitation Act regulations signed into law. A third form of political action is a boycott. Boycotts are a form of protest where people collectively refuse to buy from or engage with a particular company, organization, or countries a form of disapproval or to pressure them into changing their actions. You might see a boycott like the one on March 4th that had people with disabilities not spend money on that day to show the power of people with disabilities and the wallet. In the past year, you've probably heard about other boycotts against Target and Budweiser, and whether you agree or disagree with those, they were effective. I wanted to share with you 3 other forms of actions. One of the simplest forms of political action is speaking up to legislators and other governmental officials by sharing your story and advocating for the changes we all need to improve our lives. We can also share our stories and advocate for issues by posting on social media. This works well if a lot of people come together to post on the same issue. And never forget, one of the biggest forms of political action you can do is keep up to date on the candidates and issues and vote, vote, vote. I wanted to share now some things about why political actions are a good thing and why they work. It can help influence policies and laws. SAIL has successfully passed over 15 bills. It shifts public opinion, cultural norms, and corporate behavior. If there is more awareness on issues, it will often help change people's opinion on an issue. It can help the public become aware of what marginalized or underrepresented groups need. It creates solidarity among a variety of people with shared values and strengthens civic engagement and social bonds. It helps make sure our leaders stay accountable to us and make sure the laws they make work for all of us. So what must happen when doing political actions? Here are the do's and don'ts when doing political actions. Do. Create clear and specific goals and action steps of what you want to happen. Do. Make sure it's organized and have clear leaders with lived experiences and have spokespeople with a clear message. Do. Build coalitions and be inclusive of many marginalized groups. Do. Be persistent with your messaging and adapt to opposition. Do. Be aware that timing matters. Do not be vague or create unrealistic demands. Be disorganized or have groups that have different messages or purposes. Exclude people from other groups that could be an ally to you. Have people with lived experience or use them as tokens only. Only think of the action as a one-time event. Miss moments of public or political attention. Next, I wanted to share a little bit about our state developmental disability self-advocacy organizations. I am calling it the Self-Advocacy Network Partners. Let's start with ours, SAIL. Self-Advocates in Leadership, or SAIL, as we call it, is a membership coalition where our members are interested in shaping public policy in Washington State and the United States. In addition, SAIL offers the information, training, and other assistance people with intellectual and developmental disabilities need to speak up and be heard by government lawmakers. We encourage our members to contact and meet with their state representatives, Each of you has 2 of those, and also contact your one state senator. We also help you learn how to testify at bill hearings. When I first testified, I was scared, but then I realized our legislators are just ordinary people like us, and they just want to hear what I think on a particular issue. So speak up. SAIL meets on Zoom each month, on the second Tuesday of each month from 1 to 4 p.m. We would love to have more people with intellectual and developmental disabilities at our meetings, but even if people can't come to our meetings, they can sign up to get our monthly newsletter. We also have organizations and family members subscribe to our newsletter. Next is People First of Washington. The purpose and mission of People First of Washington is to assist all people to realize and appreciate that we are people first and their disabilities are secondary. We people with disabilities should be seen as equal citizens in our communities. People First has several local advocacy and social support chapters around the state that meets on a monthly basis to learn about advocacy skills and support each other. They also have a yearly convention where all People First members come together once a year. People First also has Student First clubs, which are one of People First's programs developed within the high school and transition programs, working with students who experience intellectual and developmental disabilities to help them develop their leadership skills and to demonstrate the importance of self-advocacy and self-determination. Now the third organization is Allies in Advocacy, or Allies. Allies is a civil rights technical assistance nonprofit that raises community awareness by providing resources, training, and consultations to state and community administrations and organizations to ensure that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities can live whole, meaningful lives. We work as the Self-Advocate Washington State DD Network partner and fight for our rights at the state and national levels. Each state has a DD network, at least for now. We are fighting against all federal cuts to these programs. These programs are the Washington State Developmental Disability Council, Disability Rights of Washington, and the University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, who each supports people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families in different ways. Allies supports these programs as well as SAIL and People First to make sure we, people with disabilities, have a voice in all aspects of life. Allies is the smallest of the 3 self-advocacy organizations, with a board of directors of 12. The reason it's a smaller board is we want to focus on specific issues. Now I know that there is confusion sometimes about the difference between these 3 organizations, so let me do a visual representation that might help explain this. Pretend you bought a 3-layer cake. The bottom and biggest layer is People First of Washington, focusing all over the state in community advocacy. They have many local groups and over 1,000 members. The middle layer is SAIL, for those that want to dig a little deeper and work on policy and legislation at the state and federal level. SAIL has around 200 members. The third layer is Allies, and like I say to people, it's the deepest level, where we might look at how we can make real change on different issues. Right now, for example, we are trying to advocate for changes to the guardianship program. We want to make sure people's individual rights are respected. Because there are fewer members, and membership is not open to everyone, Allies is able to delve deeper into issues, and recommends things to SAIL and People First to help with at their levels. I hope that explanation.
How blue.
I wanted to end this presentation by looking at things we are still dealing with today. First, we are still dealing with social attitudes and norms around disability. Our society often still sees disability as a person who needs to be pitied or assisted. Now, while we do need assistance, sometimes, so do all of you. And often, our unique abilities, which we can use to contribute to society, are overlooked or ignored. Second, there is still a lot of isolation and bullying in our schools, and again we often face low expectations from teachers, principals, or counselors. We need to change that. Third, unfortunately, even after the Americans with Disabilities Act, we still see low employment levels for people with disabilities, especially those with intellectual disabilities. We again need to change society's expectations for us and give us a chance to succeed. Plus a lot of support services we need to remain in the community is tied to us remaining poor. Fourth, we have a transportation system that still isolates us. It can be hard for some of us to travel between counties, and for others, there is little to no transportation in the area. Fifth, we have a housing system that is not accessible enough or is not affordable for many. That's why so many people live at home. Sixth, we still have a governmental system that still favors institutional care. We give people the right to live in the institutions, and we have waivers, which in my mind means we are waiving our right to live in an institution, to have services in our communities. This is very backwards in thinking. And while we do need emergency services, we have proven that well thought out and well implemented services can be best provided in our community. And then lastly, I stated that we still need to work on communities that aren't accessible. So what is the biggest takeaway from my presentation? Your voice matters, nothing about us without us. In other words, nothing about you without you. Don't let your voice be excluded, it is valuable and needed. So you must speak up, speak out, come together with others and make real and valuable change. If you would like to reach out to me or my colleague Jessica Renner, our information is on the screen, and I will put it into chat, and also send this in an email. My email is shawn@arcwa.org and Jessica's is sail@arcwa.org.
This video is sponsored in partnership with Self-Advocates in Leadership, the ARC of Washington, and the Washington State Developmental Disabilities Council.